Justin, is it really you? Are you really there?
Yeah, I'm here, man. I'm here.
I missed you so much. I'm so happy I could sing right now.
No, man, don't. No.
What?
No.
Fine, let's get this started. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Dump and Chase Podcast Draft Special. Man, it feels good to be back on the mic again. My name is Sam Olmstead, and with me, as always, is my brother from a shorter mother, Mr. Justin Irwin.
Yo.
Now, Justin, the future of sports and live sporting events are still up in the air, but wasn't it nice to have some sense of normalcy and get to sift through the aftermath of a USHL draft?
Oh, it's a wonderful thing. It's a shame we don't have a whole lot of scouting reports because of the COVID. Yeah, I'm going to blame the COVID on not having a whole lot of information.
Okay, so before we get into the draft, we have a few items to get through. In case you missed out on the last episode, we released a greatest hits show that was in line with what we wanted to do for the anniversary episode, but didn't get the chance. Big thanks to my wife, April, for taking over hosting duties. She was a pro. It took her less than 7 minutes to record all of her parts. I mean, completely put us to shame, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's amazing what somebody with, focus can do.
Yeah. And I also want to give a big shout out to Aiden Gallagher and his mother, Regina. I had tweeted out a few weeks ago asking if anyone had the capability to make a Phantoms mask I could wear while working. Right now I'm out in public 4 or 5 days a week, and I only have the one mask to wear. Aiden reached out to me right away, actually, and offered to send me a mask. As it turned out, his mother, Regina, had been using bits of various uniform pieces of Aiden's with the logo on them to make a few masks. And, they were nice enough to send me one. I just got it here a few days ago. It's really cool. It has this strap that goes around the back and top of my head. And then there's a cup on the front that covers my nose and mouth. It's like that kid from the Little Giants. Now, obviously, I'm just kidding. Justin, if you could at this point, throw up that picture I sent you. There we go. So, Aiden and Regina Gallagher, thank you so much for helping to keep me safe while I'm out and about. Being around Aiden the past couple years, it's really no surprise he stepped up like that. This kid was team captain for a reason.
We're sure he'll probably at least lead by example as he goes forward. Definitely a really cool mask. So, yeah. I think you got lucky there.
And funny enough, he's off to Michigan State this fall, where he will join another former Phantoms captain, Tommy Apap. I made sure to tell him we'd be rooting for him, except when he plays Ohio State, then we'll be rooting for Matt Cassidy. And I believe Austin Pooley will still be with the Buckeyes. So if you have the Big Ten Network, Michigan State versus Ohio State will be a really good one to watch for Phantoms fans.
Yeah, the last couple of years, it's finally interesting to see Ohio State be competitive in that that matchup. And, you can attribute a lot of that to some of the Phantoms who have gone there.
Yep, Sean Romeo.
Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah, big difference in goal for Ohio State. We also have some team news to get to as well. The all USHL teams were announced, and we ended up with 2 Phantoms making the list. Trevor Kuntar was named to the All-USHL second team, and Colin Purcell was named to the All-Rookie second team. So a big congrats to those two. More often than not, the Phantoms are largely ignored with the various USHL awards, especially this last season with the Player of the Week. So when a player or players makes any USHL list, it's a reason for us to celebrate in Youngstown.
We're kind of abandoned over here, but that kind of feeds into the us against the world thing, so.
There were also a couple college commitments that we are aware of. Artyom Borshev has committed to Lake Superior State University, and Jason DeBay committed to Utica College. So as much as we want to congratulate the players, we want to congratulate these institutions for making commitments to 2 very high quality / high character young men.
Yeah, definitely. Both will be getting players, defensemen, who have proven that they can, raise their game and raise the game of the players around them. So big win for both universities.
So at the beginning of April, Bando Performance out of Massachusetts had announced on Twitter that Riley Duran had signed with the Phantoms for the upcoming season. Riley has been a Youngstown affiliate for the past couple years. He was actually called up for one game at the end of the 2018-2019 season against Team USA. Riley put up 44 points in 27 games with Lawrence Academy Prep last season, along with 20 points in 36 games with the Cape Cod Whalers U18s. Riley is an '02 birth year and has committed to Providence College. What contribution can you see him making to the Phantoms this upcoming season?
Well, that certainly remains to be seen. Don't have a whole lot of, personal viewing of him. We got one game at the USHL level. Yeah, it's a prospect that, we've had our eye on. I'm sure that the rest of the organization has scouted him fairly well. Will he make the team? That we'll have to see come fall.
Well, speaking of Riley Duran and scouting, the NHL Central Scouting Final rankings were released prior to the NHL Draft, and the Phantoms landed 4 players on the North American Skaters list, starting with Riley being listed as the 95th ranked North American skater. Trevor Kuntar came in at 143, and Ben Schoen came in at 159, although you could argue his ranking probably would have been a good bit higher had he not been on injured reserve for 3 months. And on the goalie side of it, Colin Purcell was ranked number 17 for North American goalies.
So, yeah, Phantoms are definitely well represented. Again, Riley Duran is still kind of an unknown. Surprised to see him ranked so high. Kuntar, again, I'm surprised to see ranked so low. More, I think we get kind of ignored over here, but that's another story. Yeah, and definitely shown, with the injury, that took a lot of his viewing out, especially a lot of those Team USA games. He will probably be back this season. If he does not get drafted in this one, he'll have another really great shot to raise his draft stock for the next one.
So now with that all out of the way, can we finally get to the draft? Kind of. Some pre-draft news came out that the Phantoms were involved in a trade with Sioux City. Youngstown sent Scott Morrow, a Shattuck St. Mary's defenseman and Phantoms affiliate who was called up for 2 USHL games last season, and a Phase 1 7th round pick to the Musketeers and this is going to be the start of us bungling names, once again a yearly tradition with the draft. David Gucciardi, maybe?
That is correct, yeah.
Jaden Grant and a Phase 1 3rd round pick, which ended up materializing as Lucas Clem. Do you feel this was a good trade for the Phantoms?
For the most part, yeah. Gucciardi is, a guy who, has some games in the league, played a few games for the Muskegon Lumberjacks before getting sent to the Musketeers. So I think he played total of 35 games last season. Yeah, decent defenseman, not the biggest guy, pretty mobile. I know Morrow was a guy that the organization was pretty high on last season, especially, the couple of games he got called up. We know they were looking at him pretty heavily. Don't know if, there was something that they didn't like. Sometimes guys just don't click with the team. Whatever it is, he became a part in this trade. We got 2 decent players back, a pick. Yeah, I think it'll work out.
So going into this year's draft, the big story for us was this was the first time that Coach Brad Patterson was wearing the general manager's hat and leading the draft. Just what you've looked over, the names, some of the Bears stats, a little bit of the scouting. Overall, how do you feel Brad did with helming his first draft?
Definitely very optimistic. The Phase 1, I think we did outstanding. I see a lot going on with the Phase 1 that, if it doesn't materialize this upcoming season, season after that, we're in good hands. Phase 2 is always a little bit trickier. You're trying to just pick up the pieces that you don't think are returning from last season and you have to deal with what's available. It's harder to judge, I think, sometimes the phase 2. We did okay. Definitely some interesting picks on there. We'll have to see, maybe coming out of camp, if camps are open, we can get a better look. Maybe not till the Fall Classic. So it'll be interesting.
See, what to me it boils down to, I think, one of the benefits, I guess, to being the coach and the general manager is that you can get an idea in your head of what you want your team to be, and then you can go out and get those players to create that team, and you have the final decision on it. I would guess one of the knocks on Jason Kohler was that, I mean, you could never really accuse him of, picking bad players. I mean, he over the years has picked some very high quality players. I think maybe just not really, having an idea of what kind of team to put together, and maybe not necessarily drafting to have players that could complement each other on the ice. And I think this last season we really saw that. I mean, there was some great players on the ice, but there just was such a hard time, finding chemistry in the lines.
Yeah, and some of that is, goes into the locker room. There's just some guys don't click. Yeah, maybe, having the coach be the GM, he's got a better finger on the pulse of, who's going to fit into the locker room. He's maybe listening to, what his players are telling him, So, it remains to be seen.
Now, another interesting aspect for this year for Youngstown was that this was the first time in a while that the team did not tender a player before the draft, thus having to give up, phase 1 first round pick. I kind of have to imagine there's still maybe being a bad taste in the team's mouth after the whole debacle with Davis Codd last year. Maybe that had something to do with it. And also, just to put a button on the whole Davis Codd deal from last year, we got to the point where this last season, we just started looking at Yusaku Ando as our tender player. He was an 03 birth year, and even though he was like a phase 2 23rd round pick, he made the final roster. In 40 games with the Phantoms, Ando put up 25 points, which works out to like a .63 points per game. Codd, who went to the Saginaw Spirit, put up 14 points in 53 games for a .26 points per game average. Just to throw some numbers out there with what we lost and what we gained in the end.
Again, it's maybe getting the players that click in the locker room, the guys who find the chemistry. Yeah, looking back, maybe Davis Codd wasn't going to be that guy regardless. So, yeah, best of luck to him. Maybe, he'll find his groove in Saginaw, and, we can all chuckle about this, 10 years down the line. The scheme of things, I think it all worked out for us.
Okay, so the phase 1 draft, here we are finally. The phase 1 draft, or the futures draft, which this year is for 04 birth years, saw 9 players drafted by Youngstown. It kicked off with the Phantoms having the 6th overall pick, which was actually the 4th overall pick due to Sioux City and Muskegon tendering players. That pick was used on Jack Larrigan, a 5'9" forward from the Shattuck St. Mary's U15s. Now, his scouting from neutralzone.net, which Ian Moran, somebody me and Justin are both huge fans of, has a lot to do with on that site with scouting these players. From their scouting on their website, they described him as a high-pace, high-skill forward who loves to create in spaces. He is explosive and tough to get a body on. His head is always up and is a savvy playmaker. Right there, that sounds pretty good for me for a first-round pick.
Yeah, definitely a very promising scouting report from a trustworthy source.
Yes.
I might have been present when some of that scouting took place last year's Fall Classic. Even Moran was definitely there.
You ended up meeting him, didn't you?
Yeah, I got his autograph. They definitely have an interesting ride. Sometimes you see video shot from inside.
You have that picture you can throw up here.
Yeah, and get ready to edit this out because, when they film stuff from the inside, it's not porn taxi or fake taxi. That would be really scary, considering their crew. Yeah. But anyway, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so let's skip ahead to round 4. As much as we would love to get to every single player, there's just not enough scouting reports to get to everybody, and this episode would be like 3 hours long. Yeah, so we're going to skip ahead to round 4. Now, anyone who knows Justin knows, he's an admirer of Japan and its language and its culture. And so that's always a bonus for you being a Phantoms fan and the Phantoms' ability to find these, really incredible Japanese players. Starting with maybe pronouncing his last name, what can you tell us about the Phantoms' 51st overall pick?
Kenta Isogai. Isogai. Yeah, he's played definitely a kind of an interesting route. From what I can tell, he's gone with a European prep school, would be about the best analogy. Has put up some pretty good points out there. 38 goals, 23 assists last year. Had to dig around for some video on him, found it pretty easy. And what I'm seeing, tremendous north-south. This guy is always heading straight at the net, it looks like. 2-on-1s, breakaways, he's always right there. So, an 0-4, you look at Ando, who last year in 03, can Isogai make the team? I think he has the physical ability. We could be seeing, 2 Japanese-born players on the team next year. And, I think, his north-south really would complement more Ando's playmaking, and we could be seeing something kind of unique next year.
Moving into phase 2, we'll start with the Phantoms' first-round pick. In what became a theme in the early rounds, with 5 of the team's first 6 picks coming from the North American Hockey League, the Phantoms selected Adam Eisel, a 2001 birth year forward from the Fairbanks Ice Dogs. Again, going back to the neutral zone scouting, and there is an article where they break down the picks for the different teams and stuff. We'll put a link to it in the description. According to their scouting, it says he's crafty with a slippery stick. He plays a mature game with vision and poise with the puck. Adam shoots to score. His skating has improved even more as he is fast and mobile. A smooth skater who can spin off checks. So again, another very glowing review for, one of our first round picks. Right now, he's committed to Minnesota State, which falls in with the second round pick, who is also a Minnesota State commit. That would be Will Hillman, a 2000 overager from the Bismarck Bobcats. He is also a 6'1" forward, put up 20 goals and 23 assists last season. On an article on NHL.com, the Bobcats head coach, Lane Sedevy, again, I might have got that wrong, said about Will that, he's got great hockey sense, he's a big body, he protects pucks, he competes. So as an added bonus, I thought I would do something a little different than we've done in the past. I actually reached out to Will on Twitter and asked him, what all of us fans can expect from him this season, and he answered back right away. But, he told me, we can expect a guy that will come to work every day, a 200-foot player that would do anything to help his team win. And the thing that struck me about that is, last season, it wasn't the entire team, not by a long shot, but there were just certain players, and all you had to do was go to a game and watch, and you could kind of pick out who these players were, who really seemed like they just took entire games off and just really didn't put any effort. So to hear a player, say that really makes me feel better about, what we're looking at for next year's team compared to what we had this past season.
Yeah, definitely. Both these guys are players that, they've put their dues in the North American Hockey League. We know that they come to work. So, some of the schedules, some of what you get out there, you don't succeed a lot of times if you don't come to work. So as long as they bring that with them, they'll be fine. So
we'll take a look at the third round pick, which, these first 3 rounds, it was kind of like 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, except in this case, 6 degrees of Adam Eisel. Adam, I'm sorry. I promise at some point we'll get this right. You had Adam Eisel and Will Hillman, who were both Minnesota State commitments. And then you had the third round pick, Mateus Scholl, who was a teammate of Adam Eisel's on the Fairbank Ice Dogs, a overager, 2000 birth year from Hermosa Beach, California, so a West Coast boy. What are you liking about him?
Been watching some video on him. Not overly large for a goalie. Comes in, he's listed 5'10", 165. A lot of athleticism. This guy is always moving. Seems to like to scramble a lot. One of those guys, kind of exciting to watch, kind of nerve-wracking to watch, but has put up some pretty impressive numbers up there in Fairbanks through his youth. He's won a lot of the divisional awards in the North American Hockey League for goaltender. 2018, 2019, he had the best save percentage, best goals against. That was his rookie season there. So just tremendous compete. Really looks like an exciting player.
And the next player we'll look at here is pretty much the reason that we drink after the draft is over. Just hair falling out, stressing over having to pronounce some of these names. So Justin, this one's all yours.
All right. From the Oakland Junior Grizzlies, from Northville, Michigan, Owen Bartosko. Damn it.
Tag me in whenever you give up.
I give up.
I put so much work into this. I found like a YouTube video that had this last name in it, then I listened to it, and then I'm just randomly walking around my house saying the name over and over again, trying to get comfortable with it. Owen Bartoskevich.
Bartoskevich. Wow.
Owen Bartoskevich.
All right, yeah. I like Owen. Owen works. So, yeah. This is an 03 guy, again, Oakland Junior Grizzlies. I've, got some viewing time on him actually in person, so that's kind of unusual for me going into one of these drafts going, hey, wait, a goalie I've seen before. But yeah, this is a big kid, maybe, not as big as Dominic Bassi, an 03, coming in at 6'2", 190, and, he's pretty much what you expect. Big kid, takes away a lot of the net. If he gets set, it's really hard to get a puck by him. He's more in line with what we've seen, going in the past couple of years for, goalies. Between him and Scholl, it's going to be a pretty interesting competition to see who is the second goalie behind Purcell.
But yeah, like we said, there's a lot of players to go through here. We wish we could go through all of them. Maybe just real quick, just kind of looking through my lists here. Like the Phase 1 draft, Tyler Catalano from the St. Louis Blues AAA 16U. Jake Furlong, defenseman from Mount St. Charles Academy 15s. Sam Oliver, centerman from New Brunswick in Canada. And a name that people might recognize, Miles Gunty. If that name doesn't sound familiar to you, he is the son of the half of the Phantoms team ownership, Murray Gunty, which kind of, it bummed us out at first because we're usually right on there making jokes about Madison and Chicago. And we asked around about Miles, and it turns out the kid has some game, which is more than they can say for some of the suitors to come through Madison and some of the Robins to come through Chicago, which, by the way, Chicago did draft another Robin. So
yeah, well, I was gonna say half of the Robins. But no, yeah, I saw Miles play a very little bit in Cranberry last year, the Fall Classic Youth Tournament, and I can't say one way or the other that whether or not I would be picking him in a draft, but definitely a guy that deserves a look. So he'll get that.
Just scrolling through phase 2, Kyle Fury's a name, I saw pop up on like a few different boards and a few different like message boards and stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely. Jason Stefanik was another guy that definitely he's put up quite some good numbers. Anaheim Junior Ducks.
He split his time last year between Anaheim Junior Ducks and his high school, which I believe is his high school. It's called Yorba Linda.
Yeah.
Kid put up some monster numbers, something around like 150 points in like 82 games. So that could be something really interesting to look out for. Michael Rubin, who is somebody who is apparently very well known to some people in the Phantoms front office. Found out that was a pick. They were very excited. They were very excited to get this kid. So
from what I can tell, he's a very good puck moving defenseman. A guy who could be a kind of a quarterback.
He split his time last year between like 3 different programs. He ended up playing like 122 games last season. So apparently his conditioning is very good. So. Might be something nice to see there. Carter Rose was another one. Michael Sulo was another one. Just names that we're kind of seeing bouncing around. Looking through the list, there was a lot to like this year. I know, talking with a few people with the team, they're very excited with how the draft went. The way it was put to me is they're feeling a lot more optimistic about this draft than they have in the past couple. And, even if you look at last year's draft, just go through like the phase 2 picks, there was a lot of kids, like higher round draft picks that we ended up never even hearing from, as far as actually playing for the Phantoms.
Yeah. So not really going to try to tread on the past, but yeah, maybe, this year we're just trying to get in players who are going to, show up, players, goalies who will be at least in camp. Yeah, and that was definitely a jab. But so maybe this is more of a cultural thing than, trying to draft the highest possible points, but all in all, it definitely looks like a solid group.
Okay, so looking ahead to the future, which is a whole nother reason for us to drink, but that's another story. We're in the process of working on a special COVID-19 episode. It actually was supposed to be this episode, but I have a yearly tradition of forgetting when the draft is. So we ended up a little out of order.
Yeah, and to be honest, a lot of us probably expected the draft to be upended.
But even if it wasn't, every single year I forget when the draft is.
Yeah. It's just we're kind of impressed that the league actually managed to keep its head in the game, and it looks like a pretty solid draft year all around. So kudos to not just the Phantoms but the whole league.
But yeah, our next episode will focus pretty much the world we're living in right now as far as hockey is concerned. A lot of scenarios have been thrown around, and that's kind of what we'll talk through. Everything from whether fans will be allowed to attend games, or, if there will be some kind of, distancing involved or anything like that. All the way up to, like what the billet families may have to deal with. Right now still there's a lot of unknowns. So we thought we would just do a show where we kind of, talk through some of those possibilities. Nothing's final. We have no clue what it's going to be like. We have no clue what it's going to be like a week from now, let alone, months from now. But just kind of like what's being talked about right now, what's being thrown around. And, just going through an episode, talking about the COVID, but not everything you hear on the news every day. Just kind of looking at it from a hockey standpoint.
Well, yeah, we're looking at kind of a brave new world coming up for the 2021 season. Yeah, we're just going to kind of do a stream of conscious type thing to see, what possibilities are out there.
Okay, and that is all the time we have for this show. man, it felt good to get to do this again. As always, thank you everyone for spending a few minutes with us. Hopefully we'll be back sooner than later. Again, take care of each other. Businesses are starting to reopen, but we all still have to be safe. You can reach out to us on Twitter and Facebook. Yeah, if you're really bored and you want to do a Zoom meeting and talk about the Phantoms, I'd be down for that. So, shoot me a tweet or a DM. There's a lot of other players drafted we could talk about, anything going on with the team. I have lots of free time right now. Lots and lots of free time right now. Did that sound desperate enough?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I didn't hear I didn't hear any legitimate begging.
Okay, I'm aiming to show desperation here, so please talk to me. So for Justin Irwin, I'm Sam Olmstead. Wait. Oh, it's been a while. How do we end these things?
Ew.
Wait, didn't I used to sing to you at the end of the show?
Oh no, never. No.
Yeah, I think that's how we used to end the show. That's how we always end the show. I always sing to you.
I'm pretty sure now.
Did you ever know